It's basically rising instability in the region. There are two parts of the country that are badly affected by Islamist insurgencies in the southwest and in the east of the country. And the army have just simply had enough. They never liked President Bazoum's style anyway, and they just don't think that it is sufficient to deal with the nature of the threat that the country's facing at the moment.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the president and his style and the work he'd been doing to try and fight some of the, the terrorist threat within the country.
He's a democratically elected leader, and he's quite popular. His style is quite effective with the majority of voters, but he's a very thoughtful man. He recites poetry in his speeches, and his whole agenda has been based around human rights, women's education, anti-corruption, the sorts of things that we would value. But there's just a feeling amongst the security establishment that in the context of really quite serious rising insecurity, that he's just not the man for the job.
Yeah. How much support do you think the junta have within Niger?
So they're drawn, the upper echelons of the army are drawn from the majority Hausa ethnic group that represent about 54% of the population. Hausa also control much of the sort of business establishment of the country. So there's a certain degree of kind of tacit support among that ethnic group. But that said, as I said, he is quite popular. He tours regions, spends a lot of time with people. He's quite hands-on. He is quite popular.
So let's talk about a couple of different regional plays going on. We've got a group of West African nations saying that they could intervene militarily if the president is not restored to his position. Could that be justified? What sort of form might that take?
So Niger has been an island of stability in a very dangerous and troubled neighborhood. And over recent years, other countries in that area, Mali, Burkina Faso, and others have had military coups. Now, what's happened each time is that the international community has rhetorically condemned those coups, but really done nothing about it. And that has created a vacuum that various other players, in particular the Wagner group that we know of from Russia, have filled. So this time round, we've had the same rhetoric, but there's a feeling here that this time is different. And ECOWAS, the regional bloc, have made a very robust set of statements on Sunday that if this coup doesn't stand down within the next 7 days, they will intervene militarily. We know that when ECOWAS says that, it means it. It has a long record of robust military interventions in the region, going back to Sierra Leone and Liberia in the 1990s. And there's a very real risk that they'll do the same thing again here.
Yeah. And there's also talk tonight from the junta that France could be planning some form of military action too to restore the president. Is there any truth to that, do you think?
The French have military interests already in Niger. Since they drew down the majority of their peacekeeping force in Mali last year, they left about 1,500 troops, and they've got a very big air base just outside the Nigerian capital, Niamey. However, I think that this particular statement is a move by the junta to suggest that it's really foreign interference, that the serious kind of warning they've been given from ECOWAS reflects other international interests in the background. I think it's a bit of a diversion in that regard.
Yeah. So let's talk about foreign interference. And you mentioned Prigozhin, you mentioned the Wagner group. We know that he has sent fighters to there. They're very active in Africa. He has praised the coup leaders in Niger. What are the chances that we could see some of his fighters going into Niger as well?
So following the French drawdown from Mali, Wagner Group simply moved in. So they've deployed about 1,000 troops, to 1,000 mercenaries to that country. They just literally moved into the same bases that were vacated by the French. There's a very real risk that they would look to do the same thing in Niger if this coup is successful. Very interestingly, the Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, has come out against the coup, and that then reflects the tensions between the Kremlin and Wagner, with which we're all very familiar.
Yes, and to which he continues sort of with impunity. How problematic could things get in Niger if that West African bloc do act on their threat?
I think that there's a good chance that they would be successful. The last time ECOWAS really engaged in an offensive military action was in the Gambia in 2017, and in that case, that removed the president that was refusing to go. If they do intervene militarily in a serious way here in Niger, we could be looking at quite a serious armed conflict. But of course, the nature of armed conflict in Africa, as indeed anywhere in the world, is that it's quite unpredictable. And so, the risk is that as things escalate, so it can become a downward spiral.